Min's grandmother flew in from Korea to meet her future granddaughter-in-law.
What are we supposed to do exactly?
We gotta de-queer the house. You.
What?
You look gay.
When I see something,
Honey, I'm home.
Andrew, I mean, it begins with you. What made you think that this was the right time to remake The Wedding Banquet?
Ang Lee's The Wedding Banquet was the first gay film that I ever saw when I was 8 years old. And the fact that it was a gay and Asian film, I think really put me on the right path. I actually was kind of hesitant to reimagine it, but I thought about how so much has changed for the queer community, and one of those things, obviously, being gay people can get married now. And for me, it was this question of, well, now that we can, like, do we actually want to? Like, should we? And then this question of having children. As queer people, we have to be extremely intentional about having children. Any sort of hesitation, which is so natural, could become a big obstacle. And so because of these things kind of happening in my life, just being in that current kind of phase of my adulthood, thinking about how to grow queer family, I was just so inspired by the original film to tell this story.
Bowen, what was it like for you to get this script?
I was just curious to sort of open this like Schrodinger's cat box of like, what's this gonna be? Is this gonna hew to the original, or is this gonna be a totally new sort of engagement with marriage as this institution? And it was the latter, and it really blew my mind the way it kind of spun all these plates in terms of these familial relationships, in terms of chosen and fixed family. And I saw something in Chris, this like paralyzed millennial who can't be pushed to any direction, and that felt fun. I think my character in Fire Island was sort of a sad sack, but it was still very sympathetic. Chris is sort of the opposite. He's a little bit more sardonic and jokier, but he's less likable, which I really enjoyed playing.
Love that. And Kelly, what about for you?
I was just really excited to be telling a queer story with a bunch of queer people. And I think that the experience of being on set with all of these amazing people, and also our crew, which primarily was also queer, it was just this really beautiful, healing, warm hug of a set. And I just had the best time.
Lily, I'm going to ask you, when you got this script, what made you say yes?
I was dying to do something lighthearted, something funny. It was hard to anticipate how topical and timely it would become again when reading it. It felt like a safe environment, and I wanted to create that sense of a home that's safe and loving and accepting, and in its own ways also very radical. Acts of resistance, they can be joyful. They can be choosing love over choosing uncertainty, over choosing fear. One thing that I immediately said yes after meeting with Andrew and having conversations about him was how intentional he is as a filmmaker. And then I feel like a lot of the best projects always have a little bit of a cosmic sparkle on them.
Love it. And Ki-chan, this is your American feature film debut.
Thank you.
I love Min. What was your reaction when you got the script? What was your, yes, I need to be a part of this?
My yes was because this was, like you said, this was my first English film I have ever done, and first English acting also. And I love challenging myself. When I first got the script, I always ask my company to give the English script. When you have the English audition, just give me right away, not even saying, can you do in English? No, you just give me. But yeah, this was my almost like first English audition, and I had a Zoom audition with Andrew, and I also did a queer film in Korea. I felt portraying another queer film will be kind of comfortable for me now. This was one of my bucket lists, to work in a Hollywood industry and working in English acting. That was incredible. So definitely yes.
Yuh-jung, you said no when you first got the script, right? And luckily your son made you change your mind. Tell us that story.
My English is terrible, very limited English. So whenever I get the English script, it makes me scared and give me a headache. So I said no. And I think my second son said, you should just ask all his brother. Actually, he's a gay person, so he should have some different perspective about this film. So okay, they can speak English better than I do. So he read it, and then my second son suggested his brother want me to do it. So, and his brother, the one who's living in New York, is huge fan of Andrew. So, okay, then for my family's sake, I will do it. So that's our family decision.
James and Andrew, I mean, to Lily's point, this film coming out now, it couldn't be more timelier. What does it mean that this film is being released at a time when we are in the America that we're in?
I wish we lived in better times, Like, I'm thankful that our film can offer something to audiences now, but I wish we lived in better times. I think it's important that we continue to tell stories like this, to center people of color, to center queer people, not in any sort of like DEI way, but just to show the range of the human experience. I think that that's what our cinema culture has to do. I'm very thankful that Bleecker Street is putting this film out there for audiences to go see it in the theater and feel a sense of community and a sense of safety. The world is a scary place. We often have to exist with our walls up, but I think in a movie theater, communing with art, communing with film, you can let your walls down, right? Like, none of that's real. It's not going to come out and get you. When you let your walls down, I think that's when you can heal, that's when you can learn, that's when you can reflect, and then go out there into the world stronger, more ready for the challenges that we have to face and the fights that we have to fight.
After we got into Sundance, which was before the election, but I could smell where things were going, I remember we had a discussion, and I wasn't worried, but I was conscious of the fact that we were going to show up in Park City, these fabulous people, and we have this big brass comedy, but it's got emotion, it's got heart, but it was fun, And I said, our world premiere is going to be 5 days after the fascists start to take over. And so people might not be like, yay, It felt potentially incongruous. Sundance, it turns out, the screening was riotous. It was just, it was one of the greatest screenings any of us, I think, however old we are, has ever experienced. And it was a reminder that the kind of joy, and in this case, a particularly loving, embracing, open, queer joy, is what everybody's fighting for. Even if you're straight like me, it's the privilege of being part of that is everything that we have to fight for, right? And
I do also just want to shout out our one cast member who isn't here, Joan Chen. So lovely in her work last year in Dee Dee, and of course The Last Emperor, Twin Peaks. It's just such a Asian Avengers cast, and I think about when could you see a legend of Chinese cinema and a legend of Korean cinema get to work together and just show the legacy of Asian film, only in a cross-cultural opportunity like this, and so just honor of a lifetime to work with all of these actors.
I want to thank you all so much for the wedding banquet. Thank you for sharing. We could sit here and listen to your secrets all day long, but I know you've got things to do, so thank you again. Thank you, everybody, for coming out.
Thank you, everyone.
And spread the word. Thank you all.